Hey, what's up, everybody? The name of this video is, if you're a Christian, do you have to like Dave Ramsey? Obviously, the answer to that is no, but I put that as the title because Dave Ramsey is very, very popular. He's popular among Christians and non-Christians, but he seems to be the go-to guy, at least right now, in terms of biblical financial advice. So I thought the video title was kind of funny. Maybe you don't think so. You can disagree in the comments if you want to. But what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to do just a review of Dave Ramsey's advice and Financial Peace University and just kind of how he presents himself as a whole here. So this is just my personal opinion on Dave Ramsey. My name is Brad. I'm with Wooten CPA, and my goal is to bring peace to your tax and financial responsibilities. One of the ways I do that is through these videos right here on YouTube. Please like this video, share this video, also subscribe to the channel so that you're notified when new videos come out. Thank you for watching. So let's jump into this review of Dave Ramsey, not him as an individual person, of course. I do not know him personally, but when we're talking about Dave Ramsey, he is such that it's a persona, right? It's his advice, it's his radio personality, it's the product that he has put together selling himself out there. And that is the review that we're doing here today. So we're going to talk about the pros and the cons. I want to start with the pros. The very first pro that we have to talk about, and it's probably the most significant, it probably matters more than any of the other pros as well as any of the cons, but the pro is flat out, the truth is that Dave Ramsey has helped thousands, tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of people improve their financial lives. He has helped people get out of debt, significant amount of debt. He's helped them stay out of debt. He's helped them save for retirement and short-term savings. He has really helped people get their financial lives on track, and that's just undeniable. And so we have to put that as the number one pro for Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace, the whole product package of what he sells. Pro number two for Dave Ramsey is he does advocate for a virtual envelope system. Now, he also advocates for a actual envelope system, perhaps if you need that, where you stick cash in a real envelope and you only spend what you have. He is a huge proponent of spending actual cash versus even a debit card. We all know he's absolutely against credit cards. But the bottom line is he advocates for and talks about a virtual or actual envelope system, which if you've watched any of my other personal finance videos, you know that that is the only budgeting or conscious spending plan type of system that I recommend is using a virtual envelope system. So that is definitely a pro for Dave Ramsey. I believe that that is the only way to go when you're talking about personal finances, personal budgeting, and conscious spending. The third pro here is that Dave Ramsey simply gives good financial advice. So in terms of saving, in terms of you should be investing, in terms of you should have proper insurance, in terms of using the virtual envelope system, in terms of not spending more than you make, paying off debt, Dave Ramsey gives good financial advice. Now, he also brings in scripture into this and draws some financial principles from scripture. As a believer myself, I do appreciate that. I do like that. I would say that his advice goes well beyond what scripture says. I think that perhaps he even draws some things from scripture and then gives advice that goes beyond that, but it still sounds like he's saying it's based on the Bible. So that would be in kind of a not necessarily fully a con there or a negative on Dave Ramsey's part, but to me, he almost implies that some of his advice that he's giving is from scripture when the scripture doesn't quite take it that far. For instance, one example is debt. The Bible does not condemn debt at all. Now, there are plenty of verses that talk about how a debtor is slave to the lender. And the Bible seems to, in my opinion, generally overall discourage debt, but it doesn't nearly go as far as what Dave Ramsey does when he's yelling at people that they need to get out of debt. But this was a pro, not a con. So at this moment, we're going to say Dave Ramsey does give really sound, solid, good financial advice. Now, let's jump into the negatives, the things that I don't particularly agree with or like about Dave Ramsey's product. right? I'm not him. I'm going to clarify this again. Not him personally, because I do not know him personally, but I know his public persona. I know financial peace because I've been through it. I know his resources. And so we're commenting on that, of course, not him as a human being, because I have no experience with him as a human being. I used to refer to Dave Ramsey as the Dr. Phil of personal finance, right? If you ever watched the Dr. Phil show in the 90s, you knew that Dr. Phil would very directly, almost angrily tell people obvious things that they didn't seem to know. Dave Ramsey is the exact same thing. The first negative or con that I would have to say about Dave Ramsey is in terms of his public persona, I really don't like what you might call his bedside manner. Okay. He doesn't come across as kind. He doesn't come across as compassionate. Now, there are moments where he does talk to people with compassion, but his financial advice goes beyond being direct. In fact, his financial advice, that persona that he gives to me comes across as very arrogant, comes across as very impatient, comes across as very judgmental. I think that people could feel a lot of shame when they come to him with their financial questions. And the reason for that is, again, it's direct is good, but he goes beyond direct, yelling at people, calling them stupid, definitely calling their decision stupid, which, a decision can be stupid without you being stupid. So I'm not saying that he shouldn't ever call a decision stupid, but the whole thing just seems to go a little too far for me, where, like I said, his public persona I would describe as somewhat arrogant, uh, condescending, um, belittling of other people. And I just think that goes a little bit too far. I think that people could walk away with shame, and shame isn't going to produce any growth in you. And so that's the number one negative, really, that I have about Dave Ramsey. Now, the number two negative I would say is his lack of nuance, or his inability to concede a point to someone else. I mean, it's Dave Ramsey's way or the highway. It does not matter what personal circumstances you're going through. He will not change what he advises. Now, one of those things happens to be credit cards. He is just flat out against them, thinks that anyone that uses a credit card is stupid, says that if you are getting credit card rewards, he just quotes and says, no wealthy person ever said that they made their wealth off of credit card points. I get that. I mean, yeah, no one's going to become wealthy off of credit card points, but if you're a person who's very disciplined and you pay off your credit card every month and you're getting rewards from that, then it certainly would be increasing your wealth by a small amount. It would be helping you in terms of generating a little bit of additional income. And so I think there's more nuance here than what Dave Ramsey allows for when he's giving advice. Now, I get it. You're on the radio. If you say that there's exceptions to the no credit card rule, then every single person out there, even the ones who really have no business having a credit card because of their lack of discipline, and they're just really struggling there. And that's not a judgment on you. I lack discipline in plenty of areas as well. I'm just saying that the credit card isn't right for some people. And so he just takes a blanket statement so that I think he protects the people who would then say, oh, yeah, I'm the exception to this, and they would get themselves in trouble. So I kind of get it. But at the same time, I'm not really for that. I think that it's a lot more nuanced. It's a lot more personal. Personal finances are personal, and there's different situations. And I think that sometimes he's just a little too set in his ways, which kind of goes back to number one with the my advice is always right. A little bit of an arrogance feel there. And so that would be my negative number two. So let's jump to the baby steps. I'm actually going to share my screen as we jump over to Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. So here are the baby steps, and this is a positive and a negative in my opinion. So the positive is these are all great advice. We talked about that in the positives. Save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund. I think that is a great first goal. Now, plenty of you might think $1,000 is really hard to get to, and maybe it is. Based on your income, based on where you're at, it might be really difficult to get to $1,000, but even if it takes you longer than someone else, that's still a great first goal to get to. Pay off all your debt. Again, another great goal. You might have mounts of debt. It might sound impossible to get to, but absolutely that is a great goal. In fact, that's one of the big pros. I'm going to jump back to pro number 4 here. And that is the debt snowball. So the debt snowball, Dave Ramsey understands that most of people's hurdles and challenges in their personal finances are not due to a lack of knowledge. There is a little bit of knowledge that has to be relayed to some people. They're just not aware of some of the things that are out there. So there's always a education component to this. But more than that, Dave Ramsey understands that most people's hurdles are psychological, their behavior, their habits, what they were taught growing up about money, how their experiences have shaped what they think about money. And so the debt snowball is a psychological attack to pay off debt. Now, mathematically, you definitely would want to pay off the highest interest rate debt first, because that's going to save you the most amount of money. Dave says not to do that, and that's because of the psychological component. He says to pay off your smallest balance first. And the reason for that is, as you pay off that first balance, the endorphins are going to release in your brain. You're going to get excited. It's going to be a natural biological reward there to you paying off that debt, an emotional reward to you paying off that debt. And it's going to motivate you to keep going to pay off the other debt. And so that's a huge positive. The philosophy behind this debt snowball just works tremendously in terms of helping people pay off that debt. And that is a huge positive there. So step 2, that's great. Say 3 to 6 months, fully funded emergency fund, great goal. That's pretty common goal there for good financial advice. Invest 15% of your household in retirement, save for your children's college fund, pay off your home early, build wealth, and give. So all of these are great. The negative comes in the fact that Dave Ramsey does not let you move these steps around. He is adamant that you do it in this order. For example, you have to be spending saving 15% of your household income for retirement before you can start saving for your child's college fund. And again, I'm going to go back to what I've already said. There's a lack of nuance here. There's a lack of adaptability for people's specific circumstances. Maybe you've met with your financial planner and you can reach your savings goals and provide for your life and retirement at 10%. And so I'm okay with that, right? I think that there's some ability here to flex on this. And I've never seen or heard Dave Ramsey flex on any of these things. This is it. No matter what, you have to do this. And some people put their children's fund before hitting this 15% number. And, this is your life. You can do it. Now, there are moments where this is your life. You can do it. You make poor decisions that don't turn out for your good. But at the same time, I think there is a little bit more flexibility here than Dave Ramsey allows for. Build wealth and give. This is another big negative for me. As I said, I went through financial peace, and there was a lot of wording in there that just made my mind go to prosperity gospel. Okay, I'm not saying that that's what Dave preaches. I'm not saying that that's what he believes. I'm just saying there was a lot of language in financial peace that made me feel like that is what was being conveyed. It was basically, if you follow these steps, you'll become wealthy. And that's not true. If you follow these steps, you will be better off in the future than you are right now, because these are great steps to take in your personal finances. But there's no guarantee that you will ultimately become wealthy. There's no guarantee that you'll be able to give tremendous amounts of money like their program seems to imply. In fact, even some of the videos in there were, once you get to this step, it zoomed out. There's this big house, 5,000 square foot house. The guy's towing a boat in a brand new truck. You could do all these steps and never make it to that point. Some people will, some people won't. It's just not going to happen for everyone. And so the fact that they're making it look like that happens to everyone who follows these steps, I know that if you ask them, they would say, no, that doesn't. But they convey that message very clearly in the material, if you ask me. And that's a negative for me, because I think that you're selling something that isn't a guarantee as if it is. And it's misleading to people. So that, and then this whole give generously down here. Now, I'm pretty sure that when they go through the budgeting process, they tell you, you should be giving 10% or a tithe, because they do believe in scripture and they do follow that. And they say that from the very beginning. But this whole idea of, if you live like no one else now, you can live like no one else in the future. That's true too. But again, it was the way the language was in the course, where giving really wasn't stressed until this point. You may not make it to this point. You may not live long enough to get to baby step number 7 because we're not in control of how long we live. You may also not get there simply because your income doesn't allow you to get all the way to this step. until late in life. And so I believe that God calls us to be generous no matter where we're at. He does not call us to be generous in the future, to plan to be generous once we've quote unquote made it. He calls us to be generous with what we have now, whether that's a little or a lot. That looks different for different people, but we're called to be generous. And it just felt to me like the language revolving around that piece was, one day you'll be able to be very generous. Don't worry about it right now, but one day you'll be able to. And I didn't really like that. So that's a negative for me. So would I recommend Financial Peace? Yeah, I would. I think that it's a really great resource. I think that, if you go through Financial Peace University, if you listen to Dave Ramsey, if you can get over the fact that he kind of sounds like he's mad at everyone, and you follow just the core beliefs here of what the advice is, you'll be all right. I don't want you to feel, shame, or like if you don't do it exactly the way he says that you're doing it horribly. Progress here for me, right? If you're doing better tomorrow than you were yesterday, that is fantastic. That should be celebrated. You shouldn't have to get everything exactly right to feel like a success in your financial life. So progress, doing better tomorrow than you are today, growth, having a growth mindset, that's the goal here. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't tell people not to go this route. I think that it's a great resource. Those are some of my pros and some of my cons about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I appreciate you guys watching.